appropriate thing that I can think of to say about this movie in this opening is a quote that a supervisor used to say to me. And it was, "Kimmy, be careful who you have babies with." And if anything tells you to be careful who you have babies with, it is this movie. Welcome back to 31 Days of Halloween. Today we are going to be discussing another classic movie that comes from the 60s called Rosemary's Baby. So this movie has been redone a couple of times. I know it at least has a movie series. I don't know if it's ever been redone as a movie, but this movie is about this woman named Rosemary who's married to this guy named Guy. I still don't understand why people named their children Guy. Sorry if there's any guys watching this. I just don't get the name. So she's married to this guy, and they move into this really nice apartment in New York City, and then they find out that all these like weird things happened there, where there were witches, and they were eating babies, and all this crazy stuff was happening. And they're like, well, it's still a great apartment, the price is good, and it's local to whatever we need, and it's so nice, and all the people there are so nice, so well, let's move in anyway. And the relationship between Rosemary and Guy is really weird, and when they're being shown the apartment, Guy is constantly staring down the real estate guy, just like really weirdly, and I can't remember if he shows up later in the movie or not, but if he doesn't, like, why are you like eyeballing this guy so hard? I don't get it. And then other weird things start to kind of happen with their neighbors who seem to be super nosy and just showing up all the time, and Guy is always being very controlling of Rosemary and just being like a jerk most of the time. And then Rosemary has this really crazy, what she believes to be a dream at the time, where she gets raped by this crazy looking devil monster. And then she gets pregnant. And her and Guy had been trying to have a baby for a while, and now it's finally happened, and she's so excited and so happy. But then the weird stuff starts happening, where she has a pain that won't go away, and her neighbors keep trying to feed her these drinks, and they manipulate her into going to see a different doctor than the one that she originally wanted to. And it just progresses from there. And the whole movie is just, it's frustrating to watch. And my friend, I guess, kind of said it best. He was like, I don't know if the acting feels bad because they're just acting poorly, or if it feels bad because this is just how they acted in the 60s. And I kind of struggled with that too, because I know people say that, especially Mia Farrow, who plays Rosemary, they say that her acting in that movie is great. And to a certain extent, I kind of feel like her acting is the only good acting in the movie, because everybody else is just so weird and awkward, and like random stuff gets picked up on for no reason. Like at one point, Rosemary notices that one of her neighbors, Roman, he had pierced ears, because you see that he has a hole for a piercing in his ear, and it's never brought up again. Like she brings it up once to her husband, and then it's never talked about again. So what was the point of that? This was a 2-hour and 12-minute movie. And there was so much stuff in it that could have just been taken out. It was unnecessary. It didn't do anything for the relationship between Rosemary and Guy. You can kind of quickly see that their relationship is not that great, that he's very controlling, that he's basically gaslighting her throughout this entire pregnancy. At one point, her doctor, who she was forced to go see, tells her, don't read any books and don't talk to any of your friends. And if that doesn't sound like some 1700s nonsense about men trying to control women, I don't know what else does. And the couple of times that Rosemary does read a book, or she does talk to her friends, she's basically yelled at and told that she's an idiot for listening to these books or these people, and that she should only be listening to her husband or her doctor, both of whom are men. So I guess this kind of does take the ethos, I don't know if ethos is the right word, zeitgeist at the time, where women were trying to kind of break out from underneath their men and get more freedom and be more individualistic, and men were still kind of trying to put them into boxes the way that Guy and Abe Saperstein, her doctor, were trying to do to her. So it's, I don't know, it was a frustrating movie to watch, because you know that, like, she's made a bad decision marrying this guy just based on the way that he treats her in general, and then it gets worse because he shows up at this supposed dream where she's like, oh my god, this isn't actually a dream, and then they just pump her full of more drugs, and he's there just letting it all happen, and then he just proceeds to be a jerk to her about every little thing going forward in the movie. He doesn't want her to talk to go out to meet friends. He doesn't like when the phone calls are for her, because she has this one friend, Hutch, who's trying to call her and talk to her. Or actually, it's not just her friend, it's like a family friend. So the movie just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I get, like, why this would be scary in the 60s. You know, it's a weird movie. It deals with, like, witches and Satanism and cults and stuff like that. And then you have the whole, I guess, like, fear of pregnancy thing, which is still relevant today. And I guess especially if you're in that kind of controlling, abusive relationship where you wouldn't be allowed to choose your own doctor, or you wouldn't be allowed to, you know, talk to your friends, or you're being isolated. Yeah, that would still be terrifying today, but I don't think it's as terrifying for general audiences now as it was back then, because we've kind of evolved, I guess, as a society to understand that, like, that kind of behavior is not acceptable anymore. And I think the power of, like, witchcraft and Satanism has kind of lost its sway over people for the most part in this day and age. You know, we had our satanic panic in the 80s and early 90s, maybe even into the late 90s, but, you know, it's not something that people worry about so much today. The only time people start worrying about Satanism is when the people who believe in that start to get involved in current events and things like that. People don't typically go around worrying, oh my gosh, like, what if this person's a witch or a Satanist? Like, that's not a concern that people have now. So that might be part of the reason why the movie didn't hit me as hard. And also, like I said, it was way too long. There was a lot of stuff in there that really didn't need to be in there, that could have made this movie significantly shorter. I mean, the opening credits alone, where we're kind of flying around New York and hearing that creepy little la 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 song while they play the names of everybody, it was unnecessary. It does nothing for the movie other than to show you who's in it. And even then, they still roll the credits at the end of the film, so why did we need to sit here for a good 5 minutes flying around New York City while all these names appeared on the screen? So that all played into my score, which is kind of, it's going to be like a 5.5. It was hard for me to maintain interest in this movie. And then the ending kind of just, like, made me roll my eyes a lot. My friend gave it a 4. He felt that it was very boring. He didn't like it at all. He did, like, there were a couple parts that he liked, especially where Mia Farrow, or Rosemary, starts to kind of try to assert herself. Like, I like those parts, but it was almost too little too late. She was already pregnant at that point, and very pregnant, so, like, what is there for you to do? Like, you should have, be careful who you have babies with, basically. So this movie does really well with general viewership and critics. On IMDb, it's got like an 86 or an 88. On Rotten Tomatoes, the critics give it a 96, and I believe general viewership is something like an 88, something like that. It's very much in line with with IMDb, and I'm sure this is because critics, especially, they're seeing it from the, I don't want to say arty point of view, but I guess the very human aspect to it, with the gaslighting of Rosemary and the kind of long game that's played here, and for whoever else liked this movie, I guess they're seeing something in it that I am not, or I'm not really getting, or I just didn't care to see because I was just not invested in the movie the same way that other people would be. So if you have not seen this movie, I'm going to be getting into spoilers. So now is your time to like, share, comment, subscribe, and to see your way out. Thank you for joining for this video. If you haven't seen it, I guess I would recommend it. It's not as bad as like what I felt about Deliverance or Martyrs or something like that. But I guess, you know, if you really want to see it and see what's considered a classic of horror, go see it. But it's not something I'd be like, go run out and get it right now, the way that I was like with Bone Tomahawk or The Descent or something. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next episode, because we are getting into spoilers. So what kind of almost absolutely ruined this movie for me was the very end, where Rosemary finally figures out that she's had her baby at this point, and she's figured out that they're all gaslighting her, that the reason that they call it a secretary, but I call it a dresser, was in front of that closet door was because the closet door is a doorway into her neighbor's apartment, Minnie and Roman, who are the ones who have been participating in drugging her and getting her impregnated by the devil. So she makes her way in there with a knife and sees all these people there. There is a random Asian man. I'm not sure where he came from. His only purpose seemed to be taking pictures, or maybe for diversity's sake. I don't know. And there's this ridiculous cradle that's black and it's really tall and it's got an upside down cross on it and it's covered in tulle and fabric and stuff, and it's just like, we already know he's the son of the devil. Like, does he really need to have this huge, ridiculous black covered crib with the upside down crosses? It just felt so overwrought and unnecessary, and every time I looked at it, I just rolled my eyes. And they're trying to like convince Rosemary basically to be this child's mother, and she's like freaking out, reasonably enough, because she's just found out that her child is weird looking and has hooves and weird eyes, and Guy isn't really the father, Satan is the father, and she really was raped. And then it just gets more bizarre from there. Like, I really wanted her to just kill this baby, but I guess it's a comment on motherhood that even if what comes out of you is evil, motherhood still makes you love it. And I don't know if I could love the son of the devil even if it came out of me. But that's the movie, and then it ends with her just kind of like rocking the crib after she takes over from this really nasty woman who's like rocking the crib like this, and the baby's screaming, and it's like, lady, the baby's screaming because you were literally trying to kill it. Like, you're not even shaking baby syndrome, shaking the crib like this. And Rosemary goes over there and she's trying to tell the lady, like, stop. And then Roman comes over and is like, Laura Louise, get away from the baby. Let Rosemary be the mother. And as Laura Louise walks away, she looks at Rosemary behind Roman's back and sticks her tongue out her, just like, and it was just so childish and bizarre. I mean, I guess, you know, in real life, yeah, that would happen. It feels so out of place in a movie, especially at this point. But I can see that happening because, like, I've done it. I've seen other people do it. That might have been, like, one of the better parts of the movie. Even though I sat there for a minute, it was like, what? What? Did she really just stick her tongue out because she can't rock the baby Satan anymore? The movie was just, it was bizarre. And the ending was even more bizarre. They might have had me up until that ending. And then it fell apart for me there. And I think it started with that ridiculous cradle. So, if you like this movie, great. If you didn't like it or you feel the way I did, that's fine too. So, because I give it a 5. It was just okay, and it's just what it is. So, thank you for watching this video. Please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Make sure you know who you're having babies with. Be careful. Bye.